Okay, so I am just going to go over quickly. So adding and subtracting, unlike fractions, this was in your book from this year. So I'm just going to go over it quickly. And we're going to do negative 7/16 plus negative 3/8. So the first thing we have to do is find our common denominator, which we know. 7/16 and 3/8, 16, 16. Can't just change an 8 to a 16, so what would you do? You would multiply it by 2. Anything you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. And then same thing here. This is times 1 times 1. Okay, so now we deal with the negative and positive signs. This is negative and this is negative. So it's negative 7/16 and negative 6/16. I don't know if you remember how I taught you how to figure out positive and negatives, but we're going to do biggest fraction wins the sign. So our biggest fraction is 7/16 or 6/16. So 7/16 wins the sign. So our answer is going to be negative. And then we have a negative and a negative, so we add the numerators together. 7 plus 6 is 13 over 16. So it's negative 13/16. If this was a positive, so if it was 7/16 plus 3/8, then we would have biggest integer wins the sign. 7/16 is our, not integer, fraction. And then we would have a positive and a negative. So we would subtract our numerators. So 7 minus 6 is 1 over 16, and we know that the answer is negative. So that's just a quick review of fractions. Okay, multiplying with different signs. So if we had negative 3/4 times 3/8, then if you remember, our rules for multiplying fractions are a negative person and a negative person have a conversation. It's a positive experience. A positive person and a positive have a conversation. It's positive. And if a positive and a negative person, or a negative or a positive person have a conversation, the answer is negative for both of those. So we have a negative and a positive. So we know that our answer is going to be negative, and then we just multiply across, or you can cross cancel, but in this case we do not have any common numbers, so we can't not cross cancel. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 8 is 32, and then we see if we can simplify. We cannot. Okay, same thing with multiplying decimals. So if we have negative 5.8 and positive 2.3, we have a negative and a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And then you don't have to figure this out by hand anymore. You're over that part. So we're going to do 5.8 times 2.3, 13.34. And we know that our answer is negative. If you have a mixed number and you're doing fractions, so we have negative 3.5 times 1.5. We know our answer is going to be negative, and then we're just going to make it into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 plus 1 is 7/2, and that's negative, times 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3/2, and then we do negative 21/4, and then we change it into a mixed number because our answer started as a mixed number. So we're going to do negative 5 and 1/4. Okay, dividing. So we have 3/7 divided by negative 1/5. So we are going to do rewrite first fraction, change division to a multiplication, flip the second fraction. and then you just multiply across. So our answer is negative, because we have a negative and a positive, negative 15/7, and then we change it to a mixed number. It's negative 2 1/7. Okay. To change a percent, so this is your book that you never saw from last year. We have 79%, and we're going to change it to a fraction or a mixed number. So this right here becomes the numerator, and then it's over 100. So the way I do it is let me change it to a decimal. So to change it to a decimal, I do percentage sign turns into a decimal, and then we go 2 spaces to the left, so it's 0.79, and then this becomes my numerator, and then my denominator is where this ends. So this is the tenths and this is the hundredths, and that becomes my denominator. This one's obviously easy, but it starts to get harder, so that's why we do it that way. So here are a few more examples. 107%. So if you did it my way, you would change the percent to a decimal and then go 2 over. So it'd be 1.07. So this is a whole number, so we would do 1. And then this is a 7 as my numerator. And then this ends in the hundredths. So it's 1 7/100ths. All right, 0.5%. So we already have our decimal already here. So what do we do with that? That's tricky. So we don't need to change this to a decimal. We just leave it as it is. But we do move this over 2. So it becomes 0.005. And that is getting rid of the percent. This becomes my numerator, and then my denominator is tenths, hundredths over thousandths. So wherever this ends in the thousandths, that becomes my denominator. And then of course we have to simplify that. So we divide both by 5, and it's 1/200ths. Okay, so we have a percent proportion, which is a ratio, and a ratio is for something to the whole is equal to the percent written as a fraction. So, for example, 40% of 30 is what number? So for these, I like to teach it. We did learn this a long time ago, but it would be good to have a review. So 40% is going to be expressed as 40/100ths, and then of what number? So of what number is the piece, and then the 30 is the total. So this is a ratio, and the ratio is piece over total, piece over total. So we have to keep those lined up, and then we ask, is 30 the piece or is 30 the total? Well, they're saying of what number? So we line it up like this. 40/100 equals x over 30. And then we do this fun little thing. I don't know if you remember that. And then we say 100x equals 40 times 30. So now we simplify this. We have 4 times 3 is 12 with 2 zeros equals 100x. How do I get rid of my 100 from my x? I divide it out. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is x. And then we're basically just going to get rid of 2 zeros, and my answer is 12. So the part is 12 and the whole is 30. Okay, so to find the percent, So we're going to do, Kelsey took a survey of students in her lunch period. 42 out of 70 had a pet. What percent had a pet? So for this one, we're going to set our ratio up differently. So we always have two ratios. They're giving us the answer here. 42, that's the part. And then this is the total number of people that they asked. So we're going to put that here. And then what percent means that this is the part that we don't know right now, over 100. So we're going to change this instead of question marks because we're in high school. We're going to change it to an X. And now we do our cross multiply. So we're going to do 42 over 70 equals X over 100. And then this is 42 times 100 equals 70 times X. And then we simplify 4200 equals 70X. How do I get my 70 away from my X? I divide it out by 70. And then this cancels each other out. 42 divided by 7 is 6. And a 0 is left over, equals X. Then we have to label our answer because the problem asked what percent. So it's not just 60, it's 60% had pets. All right, so the first problem asked, you have 40% of 30 is what number? This one asked what percent of the students had pets, and they gave you this side of the equation. The third type of problem that you're going to have is 67.5 is 75% of what number? So we're going to make our two sides of our ratio, and we're going to ask ourselves, what are they giving us? So they're giving us 67.5. Is that the part or the total? And then 75% is always going to be shown like that. So now we just have to figure out, is 67.5 the part or the total? So we're going to do 67.5 and then over what is the total of, because they're asking is 75% of what number. So the what number is the total. All right, so we set up our proportion and we know that we have to cross multiply, so it becomes 67.5 times 100 equals 75x. Now we do 67.5 times 100 equals 6,750 equals 75x. So now we divide by 75 and our answer is 90. So 67.5 is 75% of 90. And we don't need a label like the percent that we did before. This is our answer, 90. So for homework, you can do these ones for homework. And then you can do this page. So you're going to be doing Percents as a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form, and then use the percent proportion to find out each number. So you have to find out the ratio, what they're giving you, and what they have filled in. And I will show you the examples in your book just so you have it for reference. This is when they're asking you to find the part of something. This is how you do it, so you can pause if you need to review that. This is what you set up if they're asking you to find the percent. And this is what you do when they give you the part and they give you the percent and you're finding out the whole. Okay, perimeter is the distance around a figure, so we know that. So you just do, for a rectangle, P equals 2 times L plus W, or 2L plus 2W. This is the way I like to do it. You can choose which way you want to do it. A square is perimeter equals 4S. A parallelogram equals P equals 2A plus 2B. Triangle equals P equals A plus B plus C. So that is perimeter. And circumference is C equals 2 pi r. So you're going to fill in what they give to you. And remember, this is the diameter. Half of that is the radius. And the distance around is the circumference. So you're going to plug in whatever they give to you. And you're going to simplify. So the r is 4 in this problem. So you're going to do 2 pi 4, which is 8 pi. And then on your calculator, you can just do 8 pi, or you can, usually they ask you to do 3.14. So round it to the nearest 25.13274,123. Round it to the nearest tenth is what the directions say. So it's 25.1. And then you can do number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10, 11, 12 for homework. Area of a rectangle equals length times width. Area of a parallelogram equals base times height. Here is the base, this is the height. Square equals side squared. Each of these are a side. And a triangle equals area equals 1/2 base times height. I won't go over how to do that because I'm pretty sure you know how. So you can do number 1, 2, 4, 5, and that'll be good. A semicircle, so area of a circle is pi r squared for the when they give you the radius, and if they give you the diameter, you cut it in half. So for this one, they did give you the radius, so you just use the 3. You plug it in to where the r is, so you would do pi 3 squared. 3 squared is 9 pi, and then you would do 9 times 3.14, and it is about 28.26, and it says round to the nearest tenth, so it would be 28.3. And if you were doing a semicircle, you could use this formula, and then just if they gave you this, you would cut this in half because it's a half a circle. If they give you the diameter, you do the same exact thing, but they you cut the 21 into 10.5, which is 21 divided by 2, because they gave you the diameter, and the diameter is twice the radius, so the radius is half of the diameter. So you can do number 10, 11, and 12 as well. And then volume is different formulas for every shape. So if you have a rectangular prism, that's easy. You just do volume equals length times width times height. I won't give you homework for these. If the length is 4 and the width is 3 and the base is, oh wait, they're doing two separate ones here. Sorry. Okay, A. So they're saying the length is 8, the width is 1, and the height is 5. You would just do 8 times 1 times 5. And then volume is always in units cubed. The volume of a cylinder, so I would write these down if I were you. It's good to have as a sheet. Volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times height. So you fill in what they give to you. So it's pi. They said that the radius was 3 and the height was 6. So you're going to do pi times 9 times 6. So it turns into 169.6. Most of the time, if it turns into anything bigger than tenths, they're going to ask you to round to the nearest tenth, but this one happened to just end in tenths. And then again, it's in cubic inches or inches, like that. All right, surface area. So we have a surface area of a prism. Our formula is S equals 2 length width plus 2 length height plus 2 width height. And your answer will be in, say this was inches, it would be in inches squared because it is area. A cylinder is surface area equals 2 times pi r height plus 2 pi r squared. So you would fill in and you would do each of those. And here is an example of each of those. So obviously it gets pretty long. Make sure you keep track of what you're doing because it does get confusing. And then you label your answer in centimeters squared for both of those. So you can write all those formulas down, and we will end there because now we're doing probability after. So I will see you. I hope you have a great lacrosse camp, and write down any questions you have. We can go over anything, or we can just continue on. I don't know that probability is what we're going to do next. I don't think that's the most important thing to do. So we'll probably skip probability and go to some other stuff. Okay, honey, bye.